Tate Rodemaker is going to visit an ACC school. I don't know why I went with like a country accent there. I have no idea.
Expected. I don't even know what you said.
What did you even say?
I don't even know. Like
it sounded like
for
ACC.
some reason. I was going to say Shane Beamer, like visit Shane Beamer, but then I went with SEC and I like mixed it both together. But expected to visit Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. How do we feel about this? You think it's a good fit for old Tate Rodemaker?
South Carolina's just been taking everybody's scraps the last couple of weeks, so yeah.
Hey guys, it's Terrence Mann. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, aka E-Dub, in the house. We're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. Go Live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by Noel Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by Noel Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. FSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by NoelGameDay.com. We are here live on a wonderful, fantastic Wednesday evening. Maybe not so fantastic, but moving on. I think this one kind of getting out of your head as quick as you can is probably key. But we're here after a fun little Miami trip. We're down there the entire week for all the media festivities covering the Orange Bowl with Florida State versus Georgia. And now we're back here on our weekly shows on Wednesday nights, and we're going to talk a little bit of that Orange Bowl. Won't go into deep depth of that, but we'll give our last remaining thoughts of that and just erase it from our brains, Men in Black style. And then moving forward, we're going to talk about some players that are returning for the 2024 season, some big impactful players as well that we'll be talking about here in a few minutes. We're going to talk about Tate Rodemaker and him visiting an SEC school. We'll give our thoughts on that. We're going to give our thoughts too on the college football playoff. And I think there'll be some good takes there on that, as we saw FSU Twitter and a lot of former Noles, current Noles throwing some shade at a couple teams that we saw on New Year's Day play. But without further ado, I think that's going to wrap it up. But we got to talk about Florida State's new starting quarterback for the 2024 season officially, with some good news on New Year's Day for Florida State fans. DJ Uiagalelei is now a official Florida State Seminole, signed and everything, official out there. But still, yeah, we're getting the name down. Bear with us. This is I only trained like 10 minutes before this podcast, so give me a couple of weeks and it's going to be so smooth you won't want to miss the show. So, but as always, you can listen to podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. If you're on YouTube right now, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, we got all kinds of content going out there, no matter if we're in the season or in the off season. A lot of content is going to continue to come to you guys throughout the next couple of months. So with me this evening is Austin Veazey at the very top, our lead basketball writer. And now we're just sticking you there because don't need game previews from you on the football side anymore.
Nope.
And then down below is our editor-in-chief, Dustin Lewis. Gentlemen, Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Did y'all have a good one?
Pretty good. New year, same podcast.
Yeah. I'm still watching Florida State basketball, so it hasn't gotten that much better. But
how are they doing?
It's 3-3, 4 minutes into the game.
That's promising. At least it's tied.
It's the closest you're gonna probably get, sadly.
Yeah, you're gonna see some probably some mild to extreme facial reactions from me throughout the podcast as I try to hold in my anchor throughout the game.
Yep, that's where it's at. I know. I wish, like I was saying a couple weeks ago, I wish we could go from football season and go to a good FSU basketball team to watch, but that's just not the case right now for FSU fans. It kind of stinks. Kind of really now this offseason lasts a little bit longer than how it was in previous past years. because of basketball and Leonard Hamilton and making some pretty decent runs there in March Madness, but don't really have that much anymore in case maybe if you're a baseball fan, but we don't really talk baseball on here, but maybe transfer drama. I mean, there's never enough of that. We saw last year. So the content will stay flowing, I would imagine, no matter what. But what do you guys want to talk about first? You want to talk about Florida State's new quarterback, or do we want to talk about college football playoff? Which one would you guys rather go to first?
Well, I don't care about the playoffs, so let's talk DJ.
I think it's just gonna be you and me, D-Lou, talking about the college football playoffs because I think VZ boycotted.
I refused to watch. I was playing Madden the entire time throughout the games because I wanted nothing to do with the college football playoff.
So you didn't watch a single second? Is that what you're saying?
Not a single second. I was
any video replays?
No.
Anything showing up
like?
on
Do you know
media?
what happened at the end of each game? Or
you know who won?
I know who won. That's the extent of my college football playoff knowledge.
You didn't accidentally scroll through Twitter or Instagram, while you're looking for those summer 8 picks, and then bang, there's the last play of the game.
I don't even think I opened Twitter during the game.
Damn, the summer 8 pictures.
I'm just saying, my Instagram will be showing me stuff from the past. It seems like. So
you sure you want to look on your Explore page and see what's showing you, Dustin? Do you want to?
Probably not a good
idea.
Maybe we'll get at least one football clip.
It was one of those, like, if I saw that it was a clip of the playoffs coming, I would just scroll right past it real quick so I didn't have to look at it. I just wanted absolutely nothing to do with it.
That's all right. I don't blame you. I think a lot of FSU fans were planning on doing that, but actually, I don't know if it was successful because I saw a lot of tweets from FSU fans, and they were certainly watching the game, as was I. I wasn't fully interested, also noting that I was in a massive hangover throughout that whole stretch of about 8 hours upon waking up. I didn't ask for it, but it happened to me. But yeah, bad choices were made. So I honestly was like, all right, let's just put the game on. And I barely stayed awake for the Washington game. I thought it was over, and I turned it off in like the fourth quarter when Washington scored. And then Texas somehow got another they had the possession and then went down there and had a chance, literally one play away from winning that game against Michael Penix, who watching him play football and throw the football is really fun. I can't lie.
He was slinging that thing, hit some crazy deep balls. I mean, that was he's been pretty good this whole season, inconsistent at times, but when he's on. And that game on the other night against Texas, he was just slinging it in a rhythm. Some of those deep balls, I mean, you can't ask for a better throw. So
he's a really talented quarterback, and he had a phenomenal season. If it wasn't for Jaden Daniels just going nuclear, he would have won the Heisman. I'm really curious to see where he ends up in the NFL draft. I know he's had 2 ACL surgeries. He's had some shoulder issues. He's obviously older, but at some point, talent's talent. And there's a lot of needy quarterback teams in the NFL. I'm sure there's a lot of draft rooms and scout rooms going, man, what do we do with this kid?
And what's crazy is a lot of these top quarterbacks at one point in their respective recruitments, whether it was out of high school or whenever they transferred, were linked to Florida State. And I mean, that includes Penix, a guy that was recruited by Willie Taggart down the stretch, and Florida State ultimately elected to go after a different quarterback, who I believe was Emory Jones, who ended up at Florida. And, they ended up missing out on Penix, who got really beat up whenever he was at Indiana. But now you're seeing that talent really come into center stage, and man, in front of the whole country the other night, he just absolutely lit it up.
Yeah, 4 straight season-ending injuries at Indiana, but he's been healthy, hasn't missed a game so far at Washington, so hopefully all those injuries are behind him.
Michigan in the Rose Bowl ends up winning in overtime. Milroe kept the keeper there, didn't follow his guard off to the side, which would have been an easy touchdown for them to tie the game, or if they wanted to go for 2, if Nick Saban wanted to drop a sack on Harbaugh there. But nonetheless, though, Michigan wins. Both one-loss teams, gentlemen, did not advance to the national championship. And one specifically, Alabama, we heard from a lot of FSU players, former players. Danny Cannell, we put out a piece about him. Not so fond of Alabama getting that chance. And then also to the performance that Jalen Milroe put together. And I think there's some interesting stats. I don't have them here yet with me, but passing yards wise,
116, I believe.
I know he was 16 of 23, and then it was somewhere in the low 100s that Tate Rodemaker could have put up if he really wanted to.
I want to say it was 116. He averaged 5 yards per attempt, no touchdown passes during the night. So it's just disappointing because we've been hearing for the last month, there's been a media smear campaign, and you've heard it from the college football playoff selection committee about how they thought Florida State's offense wouldn't be able to compete in a playoff setting. But then Alabama goes out there and lays an egg like that in this type of game against Michigan. And, with the way Florida State's defense was playing in that ACC championship and also the week before that against Florida, I mean, they were absolutely in a rhythm. And you have to imagine, giving Tate Rodemaker 4 weeks to prepare to be the starting quarterback instead of, just a couple days before they go on the road in Gainesville and then he suffers that concussion. I really do believe Florida State, they get a month to prepare for that game. The offensive game plan that they come out with is going to be a lot more stout than what they're able to do against Florida in Louisville in such a short time period. And, it's just disappointing because we'll never know.
I mean, he wouldn't have lit the world on fire, but I think he's putting up more than 120 passing yards, especially with the weapons he would have had a receiver with Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman and Jaheim Bell. They would have figured something out offensively. Norvell's too good of a play caller to not get it figured out.
Yep, exactly. And then too, look on the other side, Florida State's defense. And looking at McCarthy, he's kind of a guy that I guess they're really specifically calling a system guy, nothing too crazy spectacular, but he does lead Michigan on to wins. But just think about what Florida State would be bringing defensively. And I love it's so scary to see how many brain cells are lost in some fans, not understanding that the product that was put out against Georgia, that's not a Florida State team that we saw this entire season. But they're saying, okay, well, how would that be better now? Buddy, this would have been a whole nother team playing against Alabama, and that's just been the funny argument seen in social media. But you're not going to be able to entertain everybody and actually educate them on what happened because they're just going off of what they're hearing on storylines and some of these national goobers that are saying things that make zero sense and don't do their own homework to understand that Florida State was at probably at like a 35-40% strength when facing Georgia, who I think could beat multiple teams in that college football playoff bracket. So, but that's just what you deal with, and that's what the situation you're at. And another reason why to, maybe potentially get out of this awful conference that you're in because it's hurting you in every way imaginable at the moment.
The funniest thing is seeing the teams or seeing the fan bases that are standing up for Georgia. It's like Florida and Kentucky and South Carolina and teams that have never sniffed the college football playoff, much less, a win against Georgia recently. It's just absurd to me. There's even a Florida fan I saw today on Twitter that he had changed his picture to show the Georgia Florida State score of 63-3 and changed his name to say 63-3. Isn't Georgia your rival too? What are you doing? It's very easy to tell the intelligence level of some of these fans just based on what they bring to the table in an argument, because very rarely is it a good argument.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just can't even argue with people like that because it's based in narratives instead of facts. And when you look at the last 2 depth charts that Florida State released leading up to that game against Georgia, you've got about 80% or so of those guys no longer on the roster going into the game against a team who is one of the top 5 most talented rosters in the entire country from top to bottom in Georgia, one that's got national championship experience from the last 2 years. And Georgia did have some guys who didn't play in the game, but not nearly as many impact guys, starters, and 2 deep players like Florida State had missing in this one. And it's just a shame to see people run with that narrative because it's frankly just lazy and dishonest. But, that's where we are.
And there's also that thing going around where Georgia was saying before the game, like we wanted to annihilate them. We didn't have a choice. Because think about what the narrative would have been if Florida State was able to keep it close with their scout team and third teamers. Georgia had no choice but to absolutely annihilate Florida State, and I don't blame them. And Kirby Smart said the right things in the post game press conference. This isn't what we wanted to do. It's a shame that college football has come to this, but it's what we had to do, and I don't blame them whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of implications going to this, along with the transfer portal and recruiting. All that goes into performing well at the end off the season and get some get some new guys onto your team. That's something that Kirby Smart brought up a few times too with Mike Norvell and the weekly presser before we went into the game on that Friday morning. Just a lot of this, the scheduling's got to be fixed. NCAA's got to do a lot of work with understanding this transfer portal situation and the timing of it, because it makes it to where I tweeted it while we were at the game, but bowl games are done. Like, I used to like really want to watch them, and like I would have loved to watch. I mean, of course, Caleb Williams is a different animal, but different level. But just some of these other bigger players in college football, like I really was looking forward to watching Bo Nix play, and he actually played. And that's one of the really only other bowl games I was watching, because I just didn't know who was actually going to be playing and the product that was going to be put on the field from those teams. And definitely, if you weren't educated on anything that Florida State was putting out there as a product on Saturday against Georgia, you would think Florida State looked like this all throughout the season, but you're dealing with a true freshman quarterback and multiple handfuls of guys not out there on the field that were out there in 2023 that played a pivotal impact on Florida State getting to where they are. And still got to mention, Jordan Travis, who did a lot of that work too as well. So
that's what makes
not
this
worth arguing.
Tough. It's not a Florida State issue. It's a college football issue. You know, Florida State was hit extremely hard, probably as much or more than anyone this postseason. But you look across the country at teams playing in these bowl games, the majority of teams have lost at least one player, if not a multitude of players, for a variety of reasons, whether it's because of the head coach of that team has went somewhere else, they've decided to enter the transfer portal, they're protecting their draft stock. That's just kind of where the sport has kind of floated over to at this point. And it's going to be interesting to see if they do anything to change it, because like you said, Logan, watching these bowl games, it's always been a treat in the past, but just with the way things are and teams being dismantled going into these final games of the season, it doesn't make things near as exciting. You know, a lot of people would tune in on a random Tuesday in December to watch Western Kentucky and Iowa State play or some random matchup just because it's exciting to see what these teams can do when they play against each other. You don't see matchups like this very often, but now with the rosters so much different, you know, it just it takes the fun out of it.
They're in the wild west of college football right now, where there's just so many moving parts that NCAA and other administrations just said, okay, here, have fun. And it's just, there's no regulations. There's just absolutely nothing controlling, you know, guys opting out, guys transferring. The transfer portals happen in the middle of bowl prep. It's the same time as early signing day. It's like we were talking about the last few weeks, just absolutely hell for these coaching staffs in December. They can do some things to kind of ease the process a little bit, whether that's, you know, getting rid of an early signing day or pushing it back to January, pushing bowl games up a couple weeks, pushing back the transfer portal, you know, a week or two. Just some things here and there that can make some things easier. And I've seen people talk about, you know, bowl games giving players incentives or putting it in their NIL contracts, but I think that's not allowed just because of the pay for play things. So they'll get it figured out eventually. And until these players are contracted employees, it's hard to see it really changing for these bigger teams, but it will help with the 12-team playoff. I know I talked about it last week, but a lot of the bigger teams that in the past would have missed a bowl game will now be in the playoff, and you won't see those same opt-outs. So hopefully that'll help a lot. And honestly, we need to see more bowls like the Pop-Tart Bowl, where they're just having all these silly things and having an edible mascot. You know, the fans like to see that. It was kind of entertaining to see a edible Pop-Tart that was human-sized. I don't know why it was entertaining, but it was. And honestly, the more the bowls lean into this silliness and this goofiness, I think it'll help them a little bit.
Yeah, the New Year's bowls, New Year's Six bowls, Fiesta Bowl, and then think about the Peach Bowl too. Some of these bigger bowls that we used to like really stay tuned to every year, just because you would see great matchups with one another. You always want to see kind of these different conferences play each other. You don't really get to see that chance anymore because some teams are wiping out other teams. Florida State was not one of the only teams too during this bowl season where some teams were just getting obliterated or it was over by halftime and it just didn't make it any kind of fun to watch. And so some of these other bowls that at least aren't in those college football playoff bracket ones, those are taking some pretty significant hits. But like I think the Liberty game that barely lasted long there with Oregon. Just a handful of games throughout this bowl season where you're just not as tuned in as you used to. So definitely definitely a crappy situation right now, and what the NCAA's got to do fixing this wise. And I don't know why they're dragging their feet. It's been years. It's been a couple of years now, but like these things need to be fixed way ahead of time. Like, what are we? That's what they got to figure out. That's their job. They're getting paid all the big bucks. This is not where I come and figure it out.
They can't even give someone an answer on a waiver before a season starts. You think they're going to be able to figure this out? I mean, man,
that's what I'm saying. They've got webs in every.
They're their own mess.
They need to fix.
There's a decent chance that what Florida State's doing with their lawsuit against the ACC, that if this works and they get out of the grant of rights, that conferences won't exist really anywhere, but especially in football. And you have this thing that Chip Kelly was talking about, where you just have one big football conference with 60 however many teams. You rotate, you do it regionally, and then they're all split in the TV contract instead of doing it just by conference. And this way you're not having Stanford play Florida State in women's volleyball. Like, that's a huge expense for both of those teams. Just make it football their own thing and leave all the sports to their own thing. I think that's coming sooner than we might expect, especially if this Florida State lawsuit goes the way Florida State wants it to go.
Mm-hmm. Let's move into Florida State's new quarterback for the 2024 season, because I know we've got a lot of listeners in here. First off, don't have DJU coming on here for the stream. I wish we did. There isn't a. It's not that it's not going to happen, but something that we'll try to do once he arrives into Tallahassee. But DJ Uiagalelei is a Florida State Seminole. If anybody wants to know the size of this guy, 6'4", 252. Not the caliber of what you had with Jordan Travis or even Tate Rodemaker. The difference in size there, 6'4", 252 compared to Jordan Travis, 6'1", 212. Whole different body type there that quarterbacks coach Tony Tokars is going to be working with moving forward, and Mike Norvell's system as the signal caller. Formerly of Oregon State, he put up 2,638 yards on the air, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. A lot of games this year where he had to put up quite a bit of points and throughout his season. But gentlemen, overall, just thoughts on him. We kind of talked about him last week just because we knew that he would be visiting Florida State and kind of jumped into depth there on him. But he's got the ability to be that dual threat quarterback with his legs, but you could see he's really trying to improve on air. And previously, as we know from Clemson up there in Death Valley with Dabo Swinney, but officially at Florida State, someone also beat Florida State a couple of years back as well in Doak Campbell Stadium.
As you alluded to, not your typical quarterback. DJU is a big dude, 6'4", 252 pounds. You mentioned you kind of compared him to Jordan Travis, but just going back through some quarterbacks through the years, EJ Manuel was 6'4", 237 pounds. Jameis, I think he was a little bit bigger in this at one point, but they had him at 6'4", 231 pounds. And how about James Blackman? 6'5", 190 pounds.
That's a little on the optimistic side for Blackman.
But DJU, very big guy, physical specimen, and not only with his body but with his arm. Comes in with an extremely big arm, can make all the throws, and it's going to be very fun to watch what he can do under the tutelage of Mike Norvell and Tony Tokars. We've seen what they've been able to do with Jordan Travis over the last couple of years. And I think it's got to be exciting, bringing in someone with the experience that DJU has. They're obviously very familiar with him, like you mentioned, have gotten to see him play in Doak Campbell Stadium before, also played against him up in Death Valley, and Clemson actually ended up winning both of those games, obviously. But DJ, an extremely talented player, transferred to Oregon State for the 2023 season, had a career high in passing yards, also averaged a career high 8.4 yards attempt after averaging 6.8 yards per attempt the season before. So actually ended up with a higher average per attempt and also more passing yards on less total throws than he did during his 2 years as a starter at Clemson. So showed some signs of improvement, and I'm wondering if he can take it up another level, once he gets here to Florida State and gets a chance to work with this coaching staff and the playmakers that he's going to have around him.
He's got a big arm, he really likes to stretch the field vertically. And we saw that this past season at Oregon State. It's frustrating watching quarterbacks at Clemson because Clemson just wants to get quarterbacks that play in their system instead of what Mike's going to do and fit the system around the quarterback. I think this is going to be DJU's best case situation for him. We'll see if it's what's best for Florida State. I've said it on Twitter. You know what you're getting in DJ, and that's a good thing. And at his size, there's no reason for Florida State to struggle on 4th and shorts again like they did this year. I mean, 6'4", 250, tush push him every single time, and he should be getting it. It's not going to be like Jordan Travis, who I think he's listed at, 210, 205, and you could tell that he just didn't have the lower body strength in some of the situations. DJU is going to have the lower body strength, and it's going to help them in those 4th and shorts like we saw in the Duke game where they just could not get 4th and shorts. So I'm fascinated to see what Mike does with this offense. He's kind of similar to Travis in terms of play style, but he's got a bigger arm, is a little bit more consistent down the field, but they both kind of have the same inaccuracy issues that we saw a little bit this past year with Travis.
Yeah, and really, too, what Florida State has around DJ and what they could do, too, in the transfer portal, which is going to make some things really interesting. I know they were after Cam Ward and kind of feeling both of those quarterbacks out, and Cam Ward obviously now picking to go on the NFL side. So now you bring in a guy with DJ who has that experience. He has a motor that if he needs to take the ball and run with it, he can make some plays. And he made some splash plays this previous year in just his 1-year stop at Oregon State. But I just think it's really unique that DJ, and go back and looking at some of these interviews, he really wanted to come to Florida State. And I thought that was something unique to me just because of his respect for Mike Norvell, obviously, as a head coach. And I think Mike Norvell's respect level is really high right now just across the college football world and the landscape there, if you actually know what's going on. But too, Tony Tokar's and what he's been able to develop and what he was able to shape previously when Kenny Dillingham was here, but specifically what he did with Jordan Travis and getting him to where he needed to be of a Heisman caliber quarterback. And that's what DJ wants to do. And he probably, too, is wanting to reach some type of championship. I mean, he kind of had that with Clemson there, of course, but wasn't able to get developed maybe like he maybe could over here in Tallahassee. It's two different type of coaching staffs and different bit of offense as well, but definitely weapons wise and what Florida State's returning, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes on the offensive line, it makes you feel optimistic from DJ's point of view to come and to Tallahassee and take advantage of the opportunity. Definitely with the program that's soaring, with the 2024 class that has brought in a lot of talent and the previous class with skill players around them.
There's no doubt that Florida State was the team that was circled on his list. Tallahassee was the only trip that he took during his transfer recruitment. And, ever since then, seems like he's just been kind of waiting on whatever Cam Ward was going to decide to do. And, Ward deciding to go to the NFL, that opens things up for DJ to commit to Florida State. And like you said, Logan, I think he's really enamored with what FSU did with Jordan Travis, because we've seen him every single season from 2021 to 2022 to this past season. Jordan's taken a step, if not multiple steps, every single year, continued to improve into something that we didn't think necessarily was possible whenever he got to Florida State. I mean, FSU really opened his ceiling up, and so did Jordan Travis with how hard he worked on and off the field as well to get to that level. And DJU, we saw Mike Norvell's comment about him whenever he was added, a guy that they really think is a hard worker on and off the field, just like Jordan Travis, someone that they have respect for how he's been able to win games at the college level. And I think with the way they're going to be put these receivers around him, it seems like they're still going after some guys in the transfer portal, the backfield, some good guys coming back and also some coming in. And then, as you also mentioned, that experienced offensive line is going to be huge. And I also think DJ, he sees who Florida State is going to be playing in 2024, going to be hosting Clemson in Doak Campbell Stadium, and he'll get a shot at playing against his old team and getting a victory.
It's a much more talented team than he was playing with last year. And, Oregon State was a good team that had some good players that are going to go to the NFL, going to be productive pieces elsewhere in the college landscape. But, Florida State's still got better talent, especially a running back and wide receiver, and they're only going to improve that in the portal if they can land some of these guys that are visiting campus. It's going to get pretty exciting for DJ. I think he's really tantalized by what could be this offense this year if some of these guys, step it up.
Yeah, no, definitely don't have to worry about just the people that are Florida State and Mike Norvell is going to put around DJ. And I still think too that offensive line we're going to talk about here in a minute, having those guys up there, solidified, experienced in FSU system, is one of the big reasons too for DJ to come over to Tallahassee. That's big for any kind of quarterback. But it's a bridge year too. That was a big discussion too. I got on some of the social media posts that we were putting out. Inside of our comments was just, what about, Luke Romanhawk? What about Brock Glenn? And, the answer is, those guys aren't ready. And I think Florida State too knows that they can still make some waves and make some moves in 2024. It's not going to be the same high expectations as it was in 2023. No, but they can still make some moves. And the goal is always to reach and get to that ACC championship. Of course, yes, it's to get to that national championship, but that first thing to do, like Mike has said, is reach that ACC championship. And, just a few pieces there to fix up and repair, you can get there. Yes, there's quite a bit to do, and you're not going to have that same experience that you had the last couple of years with the playmakers that are gone either and gone on to the league, a majority of them, or deciding to hit the transfer portal. But, yeah, this is a bridge year, and if you want to see how far Florida State can possibly go as a team, this is where you bring in a well-experienced player of this magnitude with DJ Uiagalelei. Bang! I'm back. I got it down. I'm proud of myself. But now the spelling thing, I can't lie, I've used a couple copy and paste. It's going to take just a couple more days, and then we'll get that down as well.
It's just going to be DJU.
No, I can't do that. Can't do that for the keywords and the social media posts. But I gotta say, yes, the last couple posts have been copy and paste. But we'll get it right. Got to start off first with saying it.
The roster.
Anything else on DJU though?
Yeah, I was just saying the roster obviously isn't as talented entering this offseason as it was last year, but this is still a really good team in Tallahassee that has a lot to compete for in 2024. And I think there's a belief, they add a couple of pieces on both sides of the ball to shore some things up. And, they're not going to be, I don't think, 13-0 next season, but have a real chance to battle for another ACC championship. And who knows, maybe a berth in that 12-team playoff, depending on how things go down the stretch. So you get DJ, you've gotten a defensive end so far in Marvin Jones Jr. With Gilber Edmond moving out, who I'm guessing we'll get to shortly. I think Florida State, they're still going to be active there, looking for some more guys that can help off the edge. Everyone saw how the linebacker room looked in the Orange Bowl. I think it's clear that Florida State's looking for probably multiple transfers in that room to buff some things up there, because right now Omar Graham Jr. is your most experienced player in that unit. So you need some more experience. You need some more talent. And, there are some other positions where Florida State could add a guy if it's the right fit. And, some guys coming on campus these next couple of days, transfer prospects can visit from the 3rd through the 7th. And there'll be a couple guys coming into Tallahassee. So we'll see if they're able to pull off any commitments over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I know you mentioned Brock and Luke real quick for the quarterbacks. I think DJ is the perfect guy to bring in and be a mentor to those guys. That one-year bridge quarterback, let the guys get some practice reps and learn from a guy that's seen it all in college football. He's played in some of the biggest environments, whether it's in Death Valley or whether it's, playing Oregon, playing Washington. He's played some really good teams in some really tough environments. And I think that's going to help Brock and Luke out a lot this season.
Yep. Got a comment here too. If they want to bring in a wide receiver that's familiar with already has built-in chemistry with DJ, there could be some.
It's an offensive lineman in the portal too. So
offensive linemen are catching passes now lately. So.
Well,
I just mean Florida State. They could always use another body. We saw how beat up they got last year, and if you were able to bring someone in that has experience with DJ, I think that's only a benefit. I'm talking about Tanner Miller, a graduate transfer from Oregon State that's in the portal.
Joseph said, "We are going 13-0 again. Are you guys true fans or employees?"
We are employees.
And they're not going 13-0 again.
We do this for a job. We picked Georgia to win the Orange Bowl, and then they won by a lot more than any of us predicted. So I don't.
Yeah. So we might need to be better at our job.
Apparently.
Yeah, they're not going 13-0 next year, I don't think, though.
Yeah, 15-0, right?
Yeah, come on. Hey, at least Beasley's got it quoted. He's got a quote. He could clip it. He's like, I didn't get it wrong. Oh, man.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to tell Corey this, but do you want to let Corey know here on Twitter that you're still in tally?
Is that not Carrie?
It's definitely Carrie.
What did I say?
Corey.
Oh, sorry, Carrie. Carrie.
I'm here.
I guess we just had to let Carrie know. Oh, there we go. Carrie said that Furman offensive lineman played with my son.
Okay.
Good to know.
It's a good
to know.
fact.
Hey, hit D-Lou's DMs if you got any goodies. You scoop there.
I got Skype.
Scoop
I got
season.
Zoom. I got Twitter. I got Instagram. I got Facebook. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I got them.
But Discord. You got Discord in there?
No.
It's messed up, man.
That is messed up. You're not fully open to our listeners. That is really messed up. Congo's asking, will this be FSU's final season in the ACC?
I sure hope so.
Things better get this thing rolling. Get this. I don't know the timetable for law stuff. So like we're gonna be on an expert, but I don't know how we're gonna go into deep discussion. It's gonna be like 2-3 Dumbos. Like, so what does that mean after he says everything? Or she.
We're gonna be saying, can you say that in English, please? A lot.
Yeah, the whole entire time. Probably the
prepare 20-minute PowerPoint. We just sit here and stare.
Just sit here and be like, yep. It'd be like a class lecture on all of this. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Florida State's still in the ACC after the season. I think a lot of things would have to be quickly going and get on a hop. But we'll see what happens. Let's talk about some Florida State players that are returning. Let's go do continue the good news here. Go from DJ. Let's go over to a couple of these guys that are returning, some impactful players. Let's start off with Pat Payton. There was some kind of chatter, kind of like last year, but some chatter about Pat Payton if he was going to return to Florida State or maybe look elsewhere, just specifically in the transfer portal, NIL market. But Pat Payton is returning for the 2024 season, which is huge for Florida State. In that defensive end room, going across the side of Marvin Jones Jr., who they brought in from the transfer portal from Georgia. So, boom, bring him back along with another defensive end with Byron Turner, a guy that has continued to make some strides throughout his career at Florida State. Keandre Jones, the former Auburn offensive lineman, he's joined in that guard spot. That's a big one who honestly kind of felt like that Dimitri Emmanuel. Once he got going, kind of felt like that Dimitri Emmanuel you had in the year prior of that consistency there. And I know Coach Atkins is really excited about having him back along with Robert Scott. He's going to be here for another season for Florida State at the offensive tackle position. And then also to Maurice Smith and Darius Washington. So you're bringing back a lot of experience into your starting center who you've had the last 3 years, and Darius Washington, who has been probably your most talented offensive lineman this past year and has continued to make really good strides under Coach Atkins.
It's huge. This is absolutely massive for Florida State's offense moving into next season because these guys all have a ton of experience. They've shown their talent. They can obviously compete at this level. It really just comes down to keeping them all healthy throughout the season because Robert Scott, was on the field for less than 200 snaps this year. And obviously he's someone who has garnered the interest of NFL scouts and has really shown that potential to maybe be an NFL player if he's able to stay healthy and put a good season on tape. That hasn't happened the past 2 years, but maybe, this offseason he can finally get right and come out and make a big impact for Florida State in 2024. Darius Washington, also someone that I think has the potential to make it to the NFL level, really showed off that versatility this past year with his ability to transition from left tackle to center, contributing at right tackle some as well. I think it's an underrated thing that Florida State can just move him across the offensive line no matter who is in and who's out, and he's going to go perform. Maurice Smith has been really that cog in the middle for Florida State for the last couple of years. Also someone who's dealt with some injury issues, but he really showed off that toughness, I think, down the stretch of this season where he fought through some injuries. And, there were some times where he went down and we didn't know if he was going to get up, and he was hobbling. You could tell that he was hurt, but he played through it and fought to be out there. And then Keandre Jones, had some really good moments his first season in Tallahassee since transferring in from Auburn. But having all these 4 guys back, you've still got, Julian Armella, Jalen Early, guys like that who are growing in the back end. And Florida State, they're going to push for some guys, at least one, maybe multiple in the transfer portal to continue adding bodies to that room as well.
Yeah, the offensive line wasn't great this past year, and there was a lot of complaints about them, me being one of the chief complainers. But a lot of it was just due to health. Guys couldn't stay healthy, and they were rotating different offensive lines seemingly every single game. If some of these guys can stay healthy, like Dustin was mentioning, there's absolute talent and potential there. If they can roll with the same 5 or 6 guys throughout the whole 2024 season, it's going to help that team a lot and really help the running game a lot because, there's a lot of times last year where guys just couldn't get their counter assignments correct or they couldn't get their pulling assignments correct. They got to get that fixed, and I think health and continuity will only help with that. So good decision to bring guys back like Mo and Rob and Keandre.
The talent is clearly there. It just all comes down to health. And, offensive linemen, they're prone to get beat up throughout the season, and health really comes down to luck more than anything, especially when you're playing that many snaps, that many games. So you've got to hope they've got some plans in place to help those guys bounce back and be in a better area entering fall camp. And also Jeremiah Byers, haven't heard a decision yet from him one way or the other. Redshirt junior has 1 season of eligibility remaining and, had an up and down year. I thought he played pretty well during that October stretch, but then there were also some moments where he really struggled as well. And he's debating either coming back to FSU or maybe going to the NFL draft. I think another year with the Seminoles could definitely benefit him. And, if you're able to retain him alongside those other 4 guys, you've got to feel confident about this offensive line and the guys in the back end if they can continue to grow.
NFL draft. No.
Yeah, shouldn't.
So you think he should come back? Okay.
Should be advised. Should be advised that he should come back for sure. But for Maurice Smith, man, I love Maurice Smith. It was nice actually getting time to spend one-on-one time with him. I wish we could do that more with a ton of players on this show. But it felt nice being able to sit down and just really talk with Maurice Smith because he's been through it all in this program. If you think about it, man, he's going to be one of those that we talk about after next season, that he's just seen the downs and now the high ups, and he's going to be I just would love to pick his brain more, on Jordan Travis. We talked about him quite a bit and how the change from going from a player like that to Brock Glenn as a true freshman and just someone that has stuck around and has really embodied being a leader and is just not talked about a ton and enough. He's not a skill player. Offensive linemen aren't going to be talked about a ton and that kind of magnitude, but Maurice Smith, just being around him at practices and just seeing the accountability that he puts into a lot of these true freshmen coming in, these sophomores and just other guys too, on his experience level on that offensive line, he's really a big piece of glue for not only that offensive line, but offensively and as a program, someone that you would love to keep in that locker room. So shout out to Mo, man, coming back for another season. I really hope he can take this time to fully, recover and get a full strength Maurice Smith, which we haven't fully had yet, but it's crazy. He keeps going out there and playing D-Lou. And you see all these other centers too. What happened with Alabama? All these centers with some bad snaps and having some inconsistencies there. That's also one good part about Maurice Smith, man. Gets the freaking ball to you. And if you look at some of those practices, D-Lou, you and I were at last couple of years, everybody behind Maurice Smith, it is not a pretty sight at times at practice watching some of these snaps go to the quarterback or try to get to the quarterback.
Snapping the ball consistently is an underrated skill. You don't realize how underrated it is until you don't have it. And like you said, Logan, there were some moments in practice over the last couple of years where whenever Maurice Smith was having to miss some time due to injury or whatnot, it wasn't pretty out there. There were times where Florida State couldn't really run the offense at all. And that's one reason why Darius Washington stepping up this year and beginning to find that consistency at center and stepping in whenever Maurice Smith was out of lineup and performing at a high level. That was so big because we haven't seen that over the last couple of years. It was surprising, and credit to how much work Darius Washington put in, because it wasn't easy for him when he first got to center. I mean, he put in a lot of work to be able to play like he was playing when he got inserted into that lineup. Both of those guys are huge, both entering their 6 seasons in Tallahassee. And you've got Robert Scott going into his 5th year. He's been here for a while as well. So I think having that trio, you've got Keandre Jones, who has played a ton as well. We'll see if Byers comes back and who Florida State's able to add in the transfer portal. But, early on, before this 2024 season, for the spring and off-season conditioning is even really getting started, I think you've got to like what FSU's doing up front, as long as these guys can stay healthy. I mean, it's a talented group for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you got your quarterback, and it's going to be fun, too, in a couple of weeks, and we get a really good feel for what Florida State's going to be bringing into that transfer portal to put around DJ. And there's some things, too, that they got to do defensively. And let's jump over to a player that's decided to enter the transfer portal. This one potentially of a shock to maybe some FSU fans, but I don't think it's too big, I would say. But I would be nice for him to return, I think, and Florida State's favorite. But Gilber Edmond, the former South Carolina transfer defensive end, has decided to enter the NCAA transfer portal. A player that was behind Jared Verse and, of course, Pat Payton as well. But looking for probably some more playing time just because of what he sees coming in with Marvin Jones Jr., Georgia transfer, and Pat Payton announcing his return for 2024. But D-Lou, I think, and Austin too, to me, this is more of, I want to get that chance at a starting role and get more snaps and that kind of feeling more than anything out of this. And he just understands kind of what the situation is and what the staff has probably told Marvin Jones Jr. No spot is given and until it's earned type of deal. But nonetheless, I still think it'd be hard for Gilber Edmond to try to get more playing time and achieve that over Pat Payton and Marvin Jones Jr. and what they're trying to do with Marvin Jones Jr. in this system that they feel might fit better for him.
I think this was probably the best move for both parties. Obviously, you've got Gilber going into his final season of eligibility, and he wants a chance to showcase his talent, maybe try and aspire to make it to the professional level, depending on how the 2024 season goes. But then you look at Florida State, you've got Patrick Payton at one side locking things up. You got Marvin Jones Jr. coming in, former 5-star prospect, a ton of potential there that Florida State's hoping to unlock. You've got Byron Turner Jr., who has shown some promising flashes and actually earned the starting spot in the Orange Bowl over Edmond. And then I just think Edmond was a little bit disappointing. I mean, frankly, during this 2023 season, was the primary backup there in that rotation for a while to Jared Verse and Patrick Payton, but only finished with 23 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. He just wasn't very productive. And this was honestly one of the few misses that I think Florida State's had in that edge position, since they've gotten here in the transfer portal. Look at what they're able to do with Jermaine Johnson, with Keir Thomas, obviously Jared Verse, now hoping to do the same thing with Marvin Jones Jr. It just didn't work out with Gilber Edmond for whatever reason. And, I think it just makes sense for both parties to kind of move on from one another.
Yeah, he was 12th on the team in pressures behind guys like Daniel Lyons, Tate Bethune, Shaheem Brown, just guys that realistically shouldn't be ahead of an edge in terms of pressures. And, I think we all really like his athleticism. I just don't know if he was ever going to realize it here at Florida State. And Florida State needs scholarships right now. They need some spots for some of these guys that they're pursuing in the portal. Dustin, I know you did a breakdown on Twitter earlier, but Florida State's looking at 5-6 spots currently. And I think they'd like to maybe open up 1 or 2 more if they can.
Maybe even more than that. I mean, if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I've got some youngsters. Really, I'm really excited for Lamont Green Jr., but he's just someone that had to deal with an injury his freshman year, still putting on size as well with Coach Storms, but someone that I am super stoked to see hopefully take that next step as we move into spring ball, D-Lou, just because of what we saw on the field up close and personal, that get-off speed, just hearing Odell Higgins too. He's seen nothing like it. And I definitely for sure haven't, but just that speed that he has. But if he can match that with what Coach Storms could add in with some power and some size there to build some base on him, I just think the ceiling for him as a youngster in that defensive end room, there's such a really just bright future there for him. I'm excited.
We'll see.
Yeah. I'm jealous. I'm gonna have to come up there to Tally. Dealer, you got an extra bed I can come up there for the first week of spring camp?
No, but we might be able to fit you in the middle of us. Me and my wife.
I think I'll just ask my family just to probably stay at one of the rooms. Then I'll probably pass on that. But yeah, that's gonna do it for about most of this. We're gonna talk about some Tate Rodemaker here to finish off the show. It's not gonna be too long of one. It's been a long week, really 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This whole December was nuts, and we're already into January, and it's 3 days in. So, but we're rolling nonetheless. Tate Rodemaker is going to visit an ACC school. I don't know why I went with like a country accent there. I have no idea.
Expected. I don't even know. I don't even know what you said.
What did you even say?
I don't even know. Like
it sounded like
for
ACC.
some reason. I was going to say Shane Beamer, like visit Shane Beamer. But then I went with SEC, and I like mixed it both together. But expected to visit Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. How do we feel about this? You think it's a good fit for old Tate Rodemaker?
South Carolina's just been taking everybody's scraps the last couple of weeks, so yeah, makes sense.
Damn,
Florida State's taking so many players from South Carolina that they're fighting back.
This is a fair trade.
But what they don't realize is that FSU's okay with it.
I'll take the Kier Thomas, Jamie Robinson, and Jaheim Bell for Tate Rodemaker.
And Gilbert.
He's already gone. I don't count him anymore. So Kier, Jamie, and
Gilbert counts.
And Jaheim for Tate. That's a pretty fair trade to me. You know, quarterback carries a lot of value.
Yeah. Best of all, I feel like. I guess we're just not going to get a message from Tate Rodemaker here. You don't think he'll put out like a message here? Thank you, FSU, for the years. Thank you, Coach Tokars. Anything public?
Maybe when he commits to his new school, he'll put out like some big message. But
there's definitely some turmoil there in what happened on the week of Florida State versus Georgia in that Orange Bowl. I think the longer this kind of goes on, though, and there's not kind of public announcement and thank yous, then I don't think FSU fans are going to like this kid a lot more.
Doesn't really matter.
Fair point.
But he did some big things for the program at times, and then he gained that fan traction, but now is going to start getting a lot of hate. I feel like I don't know. Maybe the fans will tell us in the chat. We got 255 people in here, so maybe
isn't that just how the wheel goes?
What do you think? I don't know. Wesley says he has no hate on Tate. So, VZ?
I don't hate Tate, but I'm just indifferent.
And I mean, I can understand with the way it was timed why some Florida State fans would feel sour about it. I mean, Tate Rodemaker, he was taking first-team reps in those bowl practices.
Yeah, but if we're to believe Brock Glenn, then the team knew about it, a few days before the team did. So
they knew about it when they were on the way back from holiday break. So at that point, half of bowl preparation is over, and
it's a few days though.
Tate had been taking however many snaps.
A few days, God, to get ready for Georgia. BZ, this isn't for against Liberty.
I just think it was going to happen. Before the bowl practices.
It didn't matter who was starting at quarterback that game. Tate Rodemaker could have put up 10 points maybe.
But I'm also just saying for the opponent, from his point of view, like I'm thinking about my PR team here, and like this is a good mood to screw over my teammates. Just a couple days out, and here you go. And just to Brock Glenn itself too, that puts him in shout out to Brock. I can't wait to talk about him a little bit more in the next couple of weeks. But he said, "F it, I'll take it on." But just to leave a true freshman in that kind of situation, man, I don't know. I don't know. He's got to get an announcement out there soon, though. In my opinion, he's got to get it out, or maybe FSU fans will just stop caring about him. Like Mary said on Facebook, he's irrelevant. So there you go. Anything else? Anything else? That's all we. I mean,
did you not prepare?
Rodney Hill and Quishon Sapp no longer with FAMU because of Willie Simmons taking on that job up there at Duke, the running back's job. So I wish Simmons. I was going to say I like Simmons in Tallahassee because seemed like Mike Norvell and them, they're building a pretty good relationship. They have a really good relationship, but I think it's good to have that with FAMU, FSU ties. I think that's great for both universities and just the town itself. It's really, it was really cool to see both those guys really heavily supporting one another.
I was surprised, honestly, to see him take that job because he's really kept FAMU respectable over the last couple of years, and 12-1 this past season, won the Celebration Bowl. You have to think, maybe a couple more years of success. He's looking at maybe a group of 5 job or a head coaching job or something like that. So it was a little weird to see him take that leap to Duke to be a positional coach, but I'm not sure what the salary figures are or whatnot. But yeah, obviously that led to Rodney Hill and SAP reopening things, now looking for a new transfer destination. And in that same line of talk, you also had FSU Director of Offensive Scouting, John Garrett, take the general manager of player personnel job with Duke. So he'll be moving over there with Manny Diaz, getting into an elevated role, and been with Florida State the last 2 years to help scouting with, opponents and players, scouting FSU's own roster, watching things during practice. And yeah, he is moving on to Duke, and it wouldn't be surprising to see a couple guys from that same recruiting office kind of follow him over there. We've actually already seen one of them on social media, Mitch, I think it's Cianor, but I put it in our Discord chat, but he's actually going over with John Garrett to Duke, and Duke will be coming. Well, actually, Florida State will be traveling to Duke in 2024 to take on the Blue Devils. So you have a little bit of a reunion of sorts, especially with Manny Diaz and his Florida State ties.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the coaching tree, though. It just kind of continues to build out, and not even just coaches, but analysts and off the field roles. That's something that Florida State has kind of built on its own from Mike Norvell and his past experience doing that at his previous stops and doing it now. It's just kind of just what happens whenever Mike Norvell goes into a new season. There's some guys that move on and take some better opportunities and get paid a little bit more too, and get those raises as they deserve. So there'll be a few more I'm sure we'll be covering all throughout this offseason as well. Mr. Coles says VZ. So I don't know
good,
what
D. Coles. Hey, I heard from him in a minute.
Yeah, tuning in on the. Now we get the Twitter comments in here. A year later.
Glad you're still with us, Mr. Coles.
Do you know Mr. Coles?
Yeah,
no, but VZ does.
Yeah, he was in the athletic administration office when I was there.
Oh, there you go. That is some context for us there, VZ. Thank you for tuning in here, though, Mr. Coles. I don't think there's anything else. VZ, can we get a halftime score update on basketball?
Florida State is up 32-19 at halftime. Georgia Tech shooting just 26% from the floor. They've made 8 shots. They have one more made shot than they do turnovers. So hopefully Florida State doesn't find a way to blow this second half lead. Can only hope.
Mm-hmm. Hey, our guy Tom's back in here too from Facebook. Yeah, we're also now streaming on Instagram too. So if you guys want to tune there, and too, we're streaming to all of our Twitter accounts as well. So we upped the upgrade here, upped our subscription, and got some new fancy stuff and added in a few more distribution channels on here as well. So we're going to be posting quite a bit to our YouTube throughout this whole off season. Coverage isn't stopping. We just won't have our instant reactions, obviously. Post games from games will just be live on Wednesday nights, unless there's some kind of crazy news. But we didn't even go and have an instant reaction to DJ Uiagalelei.
Yeah, you butchered it.
I ripped it in the middle. I ripped it in the middle.
You've gotten worse throughout the podcast.
Give us a pronunciation guide, Austin.
What's up?
Give us a pronunciation guide. Break it down for us.
Uiagalelei.
Uiagalelei. See? Yeah,
like
mine's a little more smoother. I have
you said the G twice. Uiagalelei.
Uiagalelei.
You're still saying, I don't know if it's like your tongue clicking or something, but it sounds like you're saying the G twice.
I'm going quick.
Uiagalelei.
Tongue is quick. My tongue is quick. Uiagalelei.
You're with me on this, right, Dustin? He's saying the G twice.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying
like
smooth.
slightly off. You're saying it too
Why
fast.
are you at Dustin of all people who calls Odell Haggins? There's second never.
You got
live.
proof?
It's live.
You got
Yes, it's
You have
live.
proof.
We have proof it was live.
But the only other actual news I have on here is, people keep asking in the chat, but Purdue outside linebacker transfer Nick Scorton supposed to be in Tallahassee for an official visit tomorrow. I believe it's just a one-day visit, and he actually led the Big Ten in sacks in 2023, finished with 50 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and 10 sacks while playing in the Big Ten, and played a ton of snaps, was extremely reliable, one of the Boilermakers' highest graded players of the entire season, and someone who's extremely coveted right now in the transfer portal. Looks like he actually received a crystal ball to Texas A&M, where he was in College Station today for what I believe was his first visit of his transfer recruitment, but expected in Tallahassee. I think there's a couple other visits on the list as well. But as of now, he's expected, so we'll see if anything changes before tomorrow, but we'll be out there to try and get a look at him if he does show up to Tallahassee and the Moore Center.
5 looks good on him. Reminds me of somebody that was just previously wearing that.
Also, some minor ACC news. Will Shipley has declared for the NFL draft.
Wow.
Was he not out of eligibility?
No, he had one more year.
Everybody,
Oh, wow.
let's get a clapping in for this. What an
Thank
incredible career.
God, man.
Yep.
You guys think he gets drafted?
He should.
Does he get drafted? 199%. He's going to be the next Christian McCaffrey.
I doubt he goes in the first 2 or 3 rounds, but some team will make.
I've got him at 3, third round, and that's solid for a running back.
Third round. Does he go higher than Trey Benson?
No.
We'll make a bet on it right now.
I'm just asking your opinion.
Benson goes higher because he's more. Benson just goes higher because he's going to be more athletic. No, bigger frame.
Who's younger?
Faster.
Who's younger?
I don't know. I'd assume Benson, but I really don't know.
I think Shipley might be younger. He's only been in college for 3 years, and this would have been Benson.
Will Shipley.
4.
Will Shipley's 21.
I'm finding out right now.
They're both 21. They're both 21, gentlemen.
All right, but what's the month?
Will Shipley was born August 2002. Trey Benson was July 2002. So Benson's older by a month.
Uh-oh. I'm going to go. I think my guts tell me Shipley goes before Benson.
Wow.
But I feel like
did it ever come out what Will Shipley's injury was after the bowl game? Because that might have something to do with it.
I don't think so. We'll find out if he goes to the combine.
Terrell, we're talking about Will Shipley, the Clemson running back. That
all I can find
absolutely
is Will
decimated.
Won't need surgery after a leg injury. Has no structural damage. So that's good.
Third round.
Yeah.
But is it good that he goes before Trey Benson? That will be the question that we all ask in our head as we head into April.
I think when Trey Benson runs a 4.42 or even below that, at that size, they're going to go, oh, goodness.
I think Shipley's more valuable in the passing game, and like with the way running backs are trending, you really have to be like a dual guy, it feels like, in the NFL if you're going to be an every down back.
I don't disagree with you. Like, I'd love to see him in Minnesota, but I know NFL teams love their height, weight, speed guys. Mm-hmm. And Trey Benson's 6'1", 220 and runs 4.4 speed.
No, his top end burst once he gets out there, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas Will Shipley is what, like 5'9"? It's gonna run like a 4.51.
Clemson's got him at 5'10", 5'11", actually.
No shot. There's just no way.
I don't know, but one thing you can do is hit that like button if you want Trey Benson to get drafted.
Return to FSU in 24. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just get it all. We'll take anything for the likes at this point. But yeah, hit the like button though before you head out of here. Appreciate everybody tuning in with us this evening. We go live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. We'll be back here next week at 7 o'clock. We're going to work on trying to get some guests for you guys. Hopefully some of these guys that were on this last season squad come on here now that they're available outside of the Florida State program. The restrictions there, we can work on trying to get some of these guys on the show, and love having some interviews that can take up some good space of the shows. So we're going to work on that. But thank you, everybody. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday of next week at 7. As always, you can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. If you're on YouTube right now, smack that like button. Definitely appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe too, so you get notified every time we release a new episode. But yeah, everybody, have a great rest of y'all's week.